Hello and welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective, and today we have ourselves a mobile workstation in a hard-bodied case. Now, the hard-bodied case obviously didn't come with it and is not an official accessory, but it just looks really cool, and I love how the owner set this thing up. So, let's get inside and take a look at this absolutely gorgeous ThinkPad. And one of the things that I really like about this setup is that if you really wanted to, you could probably just use it right in the case. But let's get it out and onto the table. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is the ThinkPad P15 Gen 1. This was released in 2021 and replaced the P53. I suspect that they realized that they were eventually going to run out of P50 numbers to use, and with the rest of the lines moved over to the generational nomenclature, which makes sense in the long term. Starting at 2.74 kilograms, this is a workstation behemoth of a machine, and the numbers are just wonderful. If you're looking for a really powerful laptop, you go to the P series because even the base configurations are going to be very, very impressive. So, as always, let's start with some specs. Specifically the screen. There is really no bad screen in this, which is excellent. You have two 19 by 20 by 1080 panels, both IPS. The base model is a 300 nit 700:1 contrast ratio, 100% sRGB though, which is really great. The other one is 1200:1, 500 nits, still the same color accuracy. And then you get into the ridiculous 4K displays. And I say ridiculous because 4K on a workstation that's being plugged in perfect on battery might kill it pretty quick. So these 4K displays are either a 600 nit IPS panel, 1200:1, 100% Adobe RGB, or if you're just like, nuts to my battery life, I want an OLED, which is also touch, 400 nit, 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio, and 100% DCI P3. And those 4K displays are X-Rite Pantone color calibrated from the factory. So you can't ask for much more than that. CPUs on the inside of this is no slouch either. You have one i5, three i7s, two i9s, and two Xeons that you can choose from. And I'll put the list up here on the screen here for you. This one, by the way, is one of the i9s. It's the 10885H, and it just slaps. It's an i9 in a laptop. What would you expect for it to do? Now, in terms of GPUs, you have a UHD 630 as standard, and then you have a whole whack load of NVIDIA Quadro setups, from a T1000, T2000, RTX 3000, which is what's in this one, RTX 4000 Max Q, and then an RTX 5000 Max Q. And if you also want to continue this exploration of ridiculous numbers, let's talk about RAM. Up to 128 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 megahertz. This one has a very paltry, mismatched 48 gigabytes of RAM in it, but as you can imagine, 48 is again still no slouch. Storage is two 2280 PCIe NVMe drives. The whole thing is being powered by a massive 94-watt internal battery, and depending on the configuration of the machine, you're either going to get a 170-watt brick or a 230-watt brick to power this device. Now, in terms of optional features, starting at the very, very top, which is sometimes hard to get in a frame, we do have the Think Shutter with either the standard 720p or, as you see it here, with the included Windows IR Hello camera. Other options include the fingerprint reader, a smart card reader, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is standard. So that means Bluetooth 5.1 is standard. Intel AX201 Wi-Fi is standard. WWAN, of course, is available, and the cards that go in are region dependent from what I understand. With all that out of the way, let's do a quick tour of some of the ports and features. We do have a generously sized ClickPad with a keyboard that is backlit. You can't get this without a backlight, and a full numpad. We have the classic reinforced style hinge setup that is very, very popular with the people that buy these ThinkPad workstations. And if we start doing our tour of ports on the left-hand side, we have HDMI 2.0, USB-A 3.2 Gen 1, a headphone microphone combo jack, and then this punch-out is currently not in use. Along the front we have absolutely nothing. On the right-hand side we have the security lock slot, we have another exhaust, another USB 3.2 Gen 1, a 4-in-1 card reader. This is where your smart card would go if it was equipped. And then along the back we have a Ethernet port, we have the power port, we have a USB 3.2 Gen 1 port, and then we have two Thunderbolt 3 ports, or if you prefer, USB 3.2 Gen 2. So this is definitely a more modern workstation. Lots of USB Type-C. It's going to benefit from a docking station, and if you are using one of these modern 10th generation setups, then you probably do have a Thunderbolt workstation or a USB Type-C workstation that you can plug in to take full advantage of what this behemoth of a machine is capable of. With regards to disassembly, it is a bit of a different affair than some of the ThinkPads that we have seen in the past. Nothing changes with our magic tool, known as the Phillips screwdriver, but the main components that we are removing casually, if you will, are primarily located under this cover with a single screw. There are screws all the way along the edge, of course, but we do have a quick access door here, and that access door also has the pinout for the emergency reset, which is sometimes required. And under here we see a whole lot of things right away. The first is our two NVMe 2280 drives, and these can be set up in RAID, by the way, which is really handy. Flipping this back over, we have two RAM slots that are available here. One is currently occupied, one is here. Then there are another two on the other side of the keyboard. So for fun, let's continue the disassembly. We have two screws on the inside of the door, and then we have several located around the edge of the machine as well. And now that we've spun all of those out, starting along this edge is probably going to be the best way to open it. And I'm going to do that with my handy dandy pry tool. And then I'm going to go around the lip. And there we go. We are inside the machine. So our 94 watt-hour battery is this thin little stick that runs the whole length of the palm rest. We can see the disconnector for that right here. And we can actually see that there's layers of boards on here. And this is more interestingly designed than I would have originally given it credit for. So we have a daughter board over here, which is handling the ports on the left-hand side of the machine over here. And then we have like a sandwich on top that has some of the chips. And the whole thing is socketed, which I did not expect to see. So there could actually be some component level servicing with some of the surface mounts. You can see that there's a little bit of dust on that fan. And we've got our CMOS battery hanging out here, and this motherboard appears to be layered. So there's like this layer here, which has the SSDs and the RAM. The main board also has all of the ports along the back. The power port is a separate component that's easily replaced, which is really cool to see. And it also has this metal reinforced bracket around it as well. So again, really thought out design going on here. I'll just lift that up so you can get a better view. And there's also a USB Type-C port on this component as well. So it's pretty slick to see how they have sandwiched this board on top of it, and then some of the daughter boards as well. Overall, a pretty neat little system, and I have to say, pretty well designed, and potentially even more repairable than some of the T series because of this being a modular piece. So just a point of clarification, this is the CPU, this is the GPU. The GPU actually sits on its own separate board here, and it's held in with these 4 screws and that cable. So you remove the fan assembly here, those 4 screws disconnect the cable, and you can swap out the GPU module for a newer one, or if you needed to replace it. So excellent piece of design for longevity and upgrading as you scale up in your needs. And it would appear we've got some drainage holes as well, a throwback from the old school days. Generally speaking, the keyboards are now just sealed and liquid pools on top and you pour it off. Found that out firsthand with my X1 Nano, which is perfectly fine. So they do work, but it's cool to see those throwback design choices where all the liquid would pour out the bottom of the machine. So the only other thing to do is to talk about the keyboard replacement. So to remove the keyboard, we loosen this screw here, and I believe it's this one over here, and that's it. Once those 2 screws are loose, we can go ahead and open this up and wiggle the keyboard up, and then with any tool, plastic or otherwise, we just lift the keyboard up like so, back it out towards us, and then we can just flip it right over like that. So once we've done that, we get access to a few more cables, we get access to the Wi-Fi card, and then under this metallic reinforced door is actually our remaining RAM modules. So all we need to do to access that, spin this out, and there we have our other 2 RAM modules and their protective covers. And then over here we can see the WWAN slot. While there is no cables being routed there from the factory for the antenna, you could absolutely route them in afterward. I don't know off the top of my head whether or not you could put in another smaller drive in there. It was not listed in the PSREF as being possible, but a search on the forums may indicate otherwise. All right, with everything back together, let's go ahead and open this lid and turn it on. No slouch in speed, can't be too surprised there. And we already talked a bit about the configuration throughout the video, but this thing is an absolute beast. Now, these beasts are out there for sale at fractions of the cost of what they used to be. Now, a fraction of the cost of what they used to be is still going to be, like, we're talking 750 Canadian dollars and up, even for kind of a lower end configuration. Something like this is going to probably be closer to over $1,000 Canadian with all of the RAM, the SSDs, and of course that i9 CPU. But if you consider what these things were originally in terms of their cost, that is quite a bargain. So if you are looking for essentially a desktop replacement, behemoth of a machine that is going to pretty much do in terms of a workstation whatever you need it to do, then the P15 is a good incremental successor that has the modern technology that you would expect from newer hardware, but also keeps a lot of the things that make these machines as awesome as they are. Whether that is keeping a modular GPU, all of the ports that you have access to, the beautiful keyboard, trackpad, track point, the great quality screens, the reinforced hinges, the roll cage, the drainage holes, the list goes on. These are fantastic pieces of kit. I'll leave some details and links down in the description where you might be able to find your own. Good luck hunting. I hope this video is helpful. And if you want to see some of the other ThinkPad content I do, I'll leave some links up here and some ways that you can support the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I should probably get this back in its suitcase. See you next time.